Hey guys, I'm back today with a video I wanted to do for a while, but I didn't know how to record it. First I wanted to record it with that cupboard in the background, but because I don't have a ring light of some sort, the lighting back there is quite terrible. That piece of furniture back there is where I put all of my books, and you might have seen them in my previous videos, of course, because it's always in the background. Sorry in advance for my cats, because they are very active at the minute, so they might do some noise, especially my younger cat. He's very energetic, so... Oh my gosh, she's playing with my earrings. Stop! I don't own many books, but I still have a big collection of books. I've only read a couple of them. I'm a very bad reader for the moment, but I'm trying to make efforts and I'm trying to read more. When I was younger, I was very good at reading and I could go through a book in the matter of a day. But now is a different era. Or actually, you know what? I forgot to count how many books I have. Let me see. Okay, so apparently I have 26 books. My cat is crazy. So yeah, I have 26 books. Among them are journals, so I don't know if they can be counted as books per se, but I guess that journals are like books that you can read later on after writing in them. I feel like journals can be used as late reflections or late processes, thinking processes. Does that make sense? Most of my books are in English, as I want to improve my vocabulary range and maintain my current skills. First, there is a Gothic classic called The Monk, and it was written by Matthew Lewis. It is a novel that I heard of when I was in uni, as we were studying for some time Gothic novels, and the teacher actually mentioned that book. We studied some excerpts from the book and it caught my interest for the thing with... There was a scene in which there's a portrait of a guy, and the face in the portrait actually follows, the eyes actually follow the guy that is watching the portrait, and I found that really creepy and I love the paranormal vibe behind it. Yeah, it's about a monastery and some dark and immoral, violent things done by a monk. I bought it on Vinted and it was not expensive. Next one is The Hunger Games. It's a very popular trilogy, saga, written by Stephenie Meyer, and she got inspired from a Japanese novel or movie, can't remember. It's obvious that this one fills my dystopian interests. When I bought that, it was brand new. I've read it once in French, once in English. I almost read the whole book in English, and I stopped almost at the end because I got bored and I wanted to read something else, to spend my time reading something else. Next up we have The Maze. This is the French book that my mom found somewhere for free. I've not read any of the Maze's books, any of the trilogy. These are also part of the dystopian genre. I've only watched the first movie that I really liked at the time. I thought it was quite interesting. There were some things that were quite mysterious in the first film about the characters and that I knew could be interesting to develop and to get know of. I've also watched the second movie, but to be honest, I've not watched the last movie, or were there two movies for the last book? Can't remember, but I've not watched the last movies. Another dystopian book is the second book of the Hunger Games, and this one is called Catching Fire. This was secondhand. My mom found it somewhere again. It's also in English, this one. I'm very happy because on the cover there's Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss. I love the cover. Again, I've read it once in French, but I've not read it yet in English. Oh well. My pile of books have just collapsed because of my ejected cat. Moving on with those two plays by William Shakespeare, Much Ado About Nothing and A Midsummer Night's Dream. They are comedies that include romance, love, treason. I bought those two books when I was in the Shakespeare Company's tour in Paris. I thought that that collection was quite cool looking. It's very pretty, and the actual cover is like carved in with some antique floral patterns. The side of the pages are golden. I've only started reading this one, A Midsummer Night's Dream. I've only read the first scene. To be honest, it was very difficult for me to go through that book that is in English while trying to understand Shakespeare's words and while I'm memorizing what happens. There were too many things happening at once, and it was not a smart move for me to get back into reading by trying to read a Shakespearean play. When I was in high school, we studied in French Hamlet and we watched the movie. I quite like Hamlet because it's a tragedy, there's love in it, and the movie was quite great. It was made by Kenneth Branagh, don't know how it's pronounced. Afterwards, when I was in uni, I had a specific course dedicated to Shakespeare and his plays and his work, and I learned that Shakespeare is actually a fraud. He got inspired by many stories of the time. He did not really invent words. He probably took inspiration again from the words he could hear in London at the time, because London was already a multicultural city, so you might have heard some words and took inspiration from them. So he's not a genius. And some people say that he was a feminist, but I don't agree with that. And the teachers told us things that make me realize that he's not that much of a feminist, and it's actually quite, he's actually quite the contrary sometimes. To be real with you guys, I didn't know anything about the Midsummer Night's Dream play, but because there was a movie that was based on the Much Ado About Nothing play, I know a bit about what's happening in there, and the movie was quite funny. There were great actors, and I partly watched that movie in high school. In the same kind of collection, there's The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. It originally is a French book, but I knew that the language would be, and the vocabulary would be quite simple, and again, it fits in my goal of maintaining my skills and trying to improve them. I've actually read like half of this 1 or 2 years ago and I stopped reading it. I lost focus, but it was very interesting to read and it reflects upon societal topics and personal topics, individual topics. It's very interesting to read. I should find another word instead of interesting. Sorry for repeating that word. I'd love to buy more philosophy books, but real books, real philosophy books. I already have some references on my phone that I should get an eye on. Coming next, there's The Great Gatsby by Franz Scott Fitzgerald. This is an old Penguin collection. It was secondhand. I think I bought it on Vinted. I had to study that book in uni. I've not read the entire book. I've read a lot of extracts from it and we watched the movie in class. I think that as well as having an interest in dystopian novels and Gothic novels, I also have a slight interest in, the novels from Fitzgerald time that were done after the war. The authors are wounded by the war mentally and physically, and they have so much to say in such a unique manner. And on the side note, I really like that whole vibe and whole aesthetic of the 20s that is talking about. If I'm not being wrong, in the games Bioshock, this is the same period that is depicted. I mean, yeah, might be wrong. The Magic Toy Shop is a book we studied again in uni, in my first year of uni. This is quite a different style of novels compared to what I mostly have. Some events in the book can be quite borderline. It can easily fall on the too much side, excessive side, and on the cringe side. Angela Carter was such a great writer, and I think that she did it on purpose. She depicted everything on purpose in there, and she wanted to make the reader react in some way and to think and reflect upon what's said inside. It's a very peculiar book, and I've read it completely for my uni courses. Another book that I partly studied for uni was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Tales of Terror by Robert Louis Stevenson. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this was secondhand. But this one I bought brand new. This is a Gothic classic, and that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde image can be seen in many modern media, and it's quite common. It's quite, widely used and widely known. I wanted to get the hype of it. I think it was written during the Victorian era, as most of the Gothic classics that we know. You might know what the Victorian society was about. Briefly, it was very restrictive, and it encouraged people to be morally good and to be almost too perfect in society. But that perfection made people go crazy. It hid some darker secrets and things. The imperfection in human beings was too deleted and too repressed. And sometimes imperfection can be good. I mean, not the desire for murder imperfections, but humans are not perfect, and that's cute. As long as it's not about violence or about, yeah, being mentally violent or physically violent and not hurting others. Going back to my dystopian novels, of course there's this Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes that was written by the same author that wrote the Hunger Games trilogy. This is the newest book, and it's actually a prequel to the Hunger Games universe. I've not read it, but I've watched the movie in the end of last year, and I loved the movie. I love the actor that played Snow. It was too pretty to be a bad guy. But again, it quite resonates with the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde book and the whole symbolism of it. Sometimes good-looking people can be assholes. I've yet to read it. I'm very excited to dive into it. It's quite long and the writing is quite small, so that's going to be a whole journey. What is she doing? It's like a modern Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story, if I'm allowed to draw a parallel between novels. It's very interesting to see the evolution of the guy of Snow and what happened before what we know of the Hunger Games. Obviously this looks brand new, so I bought that in a store. It's in English. This one is not a book among everything that I own. It's a Stephen King book. It's The Institute, and it's a thriller about an institute. And apparently things go crazy in it, and things can go a bit supernatural and dark. There are secrets. I wanted to start somewhere with Stephen King. It seems kind of complicated to start with. I mean, as the one book that gets you into reading. It's very thick. It's very small written. It's a whole adventure to get on. This was brand new. There's another book that I read in uni in my first year, and this was The Island of Dr. Moreau by A.G. Wells. I think that fits into the gothic novels category, and this is about a guy, a scientist guy, that wants to replicate God's talents and skills and creation skills, and he creates creatures. It's quite similar to Frankenstein. It's short enough that you don't get bored. It goes to the point. It's easily readable. Oh my god, there's so much dots on my books. That says a lot. And I've had the great idea of wearing black today, so I might be all dirty now. This is a very thick novel. I think that this is the thickest book that I own. I've not read it yet. I got that when I was in Italy last year with my closest friends. I bought that one because it was kindly recommended to me by the lady there, or the man there. I can't remember if it was a man or a lady. It's called To Paradise. It's quite a modern book. Oh no, was that a modern book? I'm not sure. Let me check. Yeah, it was published in 2022. I told the gal or the man there that I mostly like reading dystopian novels or gothic novels. He or she said that this one was quite adequate for me. There are 3 different narrations with 3 different periods of time. It's like a thriller with dystopian sides inside and dystopian aspects. That's only what I know about that book. We have The Queen's Gambit. I've bought that book after watching the Netflix show, and I'm kind of sad that they don't do season 2. It was kind of promising, and it's again quite different from what I usually read. If you don't know what The Queen's Gambit is, it's about a girl who gets into chess, and there are strategies, there are relationships, there's pressure. I think that the series was based on the book. So apparently it goes further than season 1, what's said in season 1. So I'm very excited to read it, to see what happens after season 1. It was brand new. I found it in the English version section of the store. The Witcher Blood of Elves. It was a brand new book. I bought it merely because I really like The Witcher 3, the video game. It's a game that I love. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. This is a dystopian classic. It's about a society that forbids reading. Reading that differs from what the government wants. Yeah, society has become quite dull, and there's police. It's a great classic. I read it for once. It's not too long, it goes to the point. The end was quite weird, but it still is a good book. Still in the dystopian classic category, there's 1984 by George Orwell. I had to study that book when I was in high school. We studied the 3 dystopian classics like Brave New World, Fahrenheit, and this one. And I wanted to read this one. This was the story that I got the most interest in. Again, dystopian classic. I read it once in French, and I'm rereading it in English. And this is the book I'm currently reading and trying to read. This was brand new, like this one. Let's quickly talk about my self-development books and journals. There's this one that is in French. It's about how to grow our inner self and our spiritual self. It's a bit peculiar, and it's more into spirituality, personal development. Yeah, it's a different thinking and something that is quite aside. It's a lot. I've not read it yet. I've just flipped through it. It's my mom that gave it to me. She's very into spirituality, and yeah. There's this journal thing. It's called All the Letters Are Not Love Letters, or maybe they are. It's French. Perhaps you can find something similar in your own language. Basically, there are different topics that you have to develop on and to write letters on. It goes in many directions, and it's a great way to get your thoughts down and to get some useful time for your anxiety relief or yourself. And perhaps sometimes you can read your letters back. after a while to see what you read and to reflect upon that. I've not written anything in there yet. I'm the queen of buying things and not using them when it comes to books. But yeah, all of those books I got in my not self-care era. I wanted to lean into self-care, but I couldn't do it. Buying all those books and journals was the first step to self-care. My cat is taking the cover off, but that sofa is destroyed, so it's going to look very bad. It reveals what's under it, and that is desperation. The sofa was given to us, it was second hand, but the faux leather is spinning off and it's very disgusting to look at. Another journal thing is Burn After Writing. It was kind of popular 2 or 3 years ago. It's like a journal with guidelines, it tackles different topics, there are different questions you have to answer to. I've actually written in that book, in that journal, and I'm more than halfway through. Another journal that I talked to you guys about is that 5-year journal with a different question each day. Going back to novels, there's this one, Bullet Train. I bought it because I can't remember if it was before or after watching the movie. Can't remember. So yeah, basically this is everything. Like, this is about the movie, or this was what the movie was based on, I think. I bought it in a store, it was brand new. This is not really a book, it's about self-development, and it's a bit spiritual again. This is a set in which you have different cards, and on each card you have a statement or a question to reflect upon, and you told to write on that topic or on that question. It's French. It's called, I don't really know what's the word in English, but it's alignment. Basically, it's how to be in your shoes, at ease in your own shoes, and comfortable with your thoughts, I think. My mom gave it to me. Another dystopian novel is this Bioshock book. It's Rapture. It's about the society that is depicted in the Bioshock. The first 2 Bioshock games, the society that is on the sea. I love playing the games. It's very sinister. It's mesmerizing at the same time. It's a utopian society that fell down and that collapsed and that turned into a dystopian one. I guess that in the first place it already was a dystopian society, but it wanted to be utopian, or yeah, it was the target. I've not read it yet, it was brand new. Last but not least, there's this kind of different book. It's a non-fictional book about the Harry Potter movies and the backstage of the movies. There are collectible things inside. For instance, there's the letter that Harry gets to go to Hogwarts, or a replica of, like a sort of replica of the potion making book in the 6th movie, and other things. There are many pictures and many backstage pictures. It explains a lot about the making of the movies, about the actors, about the scenes, how the scenes were made, the costumes, and so on and so on. It's very rich, it's very dense, It's written in French. I think that my dad gave it to me for my birthday or for Christmas some time ago. I've grown with the Harry Potter movies in the French dub. I only read the 7th book, the last one, in French twice or 3 times. I also read the 5th book, I think, in French again. Actually, on the desk just behind me, there's the whole collection of the 7 books in English. But I'm not keeping it. I don't want to sell it for a low price. I'm not really into what J.K. Rowling says and her ideas. And I don't want to support her. That's why I want to get rid of the books. The movies, it's a bit different because they were produced and made by persons that have nothing to do with the original author. They have based their movies on the books, but the movies are quite different and have their own essence. Yeah, and I'm not sure that the people that made the movies, like the producers or the actors and stuff, most of them are not proning. Is proning a word? Most of them are not proning what J.K. Rowling says and her opinions, and they're quite disappointed by her thoughts. And I don't want to own something that is made by her. Parenthesis is closed. I've not read it yet. I've had a look at some of the pages and some of the stuff inside, but it's very dense. There's a lot to get a look at. It's about all of the movies. So that's it, I'm done. I'm sorry if the video was a bit messy, but that's usual now. That's usual. The whole setup is a bit clumsy and messy as well, but hey, that wouldn't be a video of mine if it was not like this. Anyway, that's it. I wish you a great day, a great night, a great week, and I'll see you in a future video. Goodbye.